Hey everyone, how's everybody doing tonight? See who's all on. I see Davis.
I think I
I don't
think
see
it's
Davis.
I
Oh,
think
there
I'm
you are.
everybody,
Hey,
Monique.
Janice. Hold on, let me get my sound right. Can y'all hear me?
I hear you. Yes. Do you hear me?
Yes, yes.
All right.
So, I
Finally.
yes, we can
Look,
hear you
you
the
know
first time.
what? No, ma'am. No, ma'am. You're gonna have to turn your screen off. You're gonna walk around palm trees in the back. That's just
I am,
just
I am.
just not
I'm
happening.
in my car. I'm on Venice Beach. Yes, and
Make me jealous.
and
You
I was
know, Venice Beach is one of my favorite places in the world to just people watch.
well, so I've never been, but we're out here on family vacation, and I had my itinerary together, but I didn't account for the time change, and
Uh-huh.
so I was like, oh, well, I won't be back in the room in time to take this meeting. So I said, well, what the heck? Well, bless y'all with these views.
Have you been to California before?
I haven't been since I was a little girl, so I haven't been as an adult.
What do you think about the temperature of that water?
It's so crazy. The water's so cold. I was like,
It's
what? And I'm a Florida girl. So I get
yeah.
out here. First of all, they told me it was 90 degrees. And I'm like, it's not 90 degrees out here. Like, it's just not even the same. I don't understand why the concrete isn't hot. Like, that's blowing my mind. Like, we're walking around barefoot and the concrete's not hot. I can't understand it. I'm going to Google it when I get home. Um, and it's just not hot out here the way the same right now. I think it's 78, 80. I don't know what, but this is not Georgia 70. Oh no, 74. This is not Georgia 74. Like, I'm not even sweating.
Yeah. No, my mom can never, well, she does now, but years ago she couldn't understand how I would come to California in the San Joaquin Valley where it was 109 and I would sit outside in the shade.
Yeah,
And she would just say it's too hot. And I said, yeah, but in Alabama, you can't go outside at 70.
no, I don't understand. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And now I've learned the whole, where in Georgia they'll tell us it's 80 degrees, but it feels like 95. And I'm like, well, if it feels like 95, then it's 95. But now I understand, like, the fifth like thing. It doesn't. This is wild.
Yeah.
Oh, is everybody? Let's see who else is with us. I see. Oh, hey, Mandy. Hey, Janice. So Sharuk is going to be late, or maybe not, may not be at all tonight. Which is how I ended up saying, okay, well, I'll just join in. He has a work thing, so I begged Mindy to help facilitate for me since I won't be at my computer. I can't share any screens, but we shouldn't be very long. I think that as far as attendance, if I can just call the meeting to order and then take attendance with the folks that we have on the line. I think I'll do a guess who's here versus who's not here. And that'll be easiest for me rather than going down the line. I don't know of any Robin rules that require me to call the people that are absent versus noting the people who are present. So I've noted, Andrea? I don't have an Andrea here. What's that?
Andrea. She's with
Hey,
the
how are you?
Oh, Andrea, from the city.
From the
Yes.
city, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I was like, I saw her name. Okay. Hi, Andrea. How are you?
Hey, how are you? You're making me
Great.
jealous, but I'm definitely committed to the committee. So
I am. I'm committed. Just to say, I don't know if I'm committed or flexing. I mean, we're gonna go with committed right now. And then we have Davis and Janice and myself. So from the committee, it's just the three of us and Mindy, of course. So I will note that as far as attendance is concerned. And on the agenda today, the only thing that we really wanted to make sure we covered were the priority items for our focus. And remember at the last meeting, we decided that we were going to kind of go through that brainstorming list and leave it up to see if anyone else had anything else to add to that list, or if there would be a way for us to go ahead and maybe consolidate some of those items. And so over the last week and a half, I think it's been maybe 2 weeks, We haven't had anybody to add anything to beyond where we were, beyond those items that we had on there. So it sounds like we're going to stick with those. Mindy, do you have a way to pull them up so we can see them?
Yes.
Yep, this is the parking lot.
Just give me one.
And Mindy, I did make you co-host so you can share. But I did want to add Major Harrell did let me know that the meeting minutes she will be handling from last meeting and these this meeting. I know she's not present, but she'll be taking care of those and sending them over. So
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that that was within her purview to do the meeting minutes for this committee, is it? Is that how
Not
that works?
originally, but it was something that it's a temporary fix while we try to replace the dear Yulissa.
Oh, okay, because yeah, I didn't know, because I thought it was always even optional or as needed for the liaison to attend.
It
The,
is. Yeah.
Okay. Okay,
It was supposed to be that way.
okay.
Yeah.
Wait. Okay.
So, yeah, I don't know if, can everyone see this? My screen is just on Basecamp. It's on Shark's post. But this is just a carryover from our last meeting in terms of, again, this is not the set priority items, but we were really just trying to get a comprehensive list of potential priorities that have sort of come up in conversation over the past 2 months. And so we were just asking everyone to add whatever came to mind, with the understanding that we would eventually have to narrow it down to 5. And we reached that number 5 just based on the size of this group. The fact that once we have this list of priorities, what we want folks to do is to apply the 4P assessment tool to analyzing that issue. And we don't want you to feel like it's just you analyzing that issue. So for each of the 5 issues that we land on, there would be 2 people analyzing it using the 4P assessment tool, and you have someone to compare notes with. So since the last meeting, we didn't get any additions to this list that I know of. And so maybe we can go over them again today and just agree. I wonder if we got any more.
Mindy?
Yes.
Mindy, I just wanted to say, Major Harrell sent over little descriptions of each of them today, and I found that very helpful. So.
Was that what she sent over? Okay, I saw something come in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of her. It was her replies or answers to the 7
To each of those
or
categories.
yeah, 7 or 8.
I wonder if it feels like it would make sense to go through her response.
So I believe, Mindy, it is on Basecamp.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
on, it
okay.
is, yeah.
I just looked at it somewhere.
Yeah. Oh, I wonder if she maybe commented it.
She did. She commented in the general message board or whatever. There it is.
Yeah, that's it. Mhm.
Okay.
So it seems like number 1 is a federal guideline, so you can't really do much with that, it would seem.
Well, that's not necessarily the case, and I think looking at this, that was the one I was looking at specifically. the federal guidelines are always going to be our base, right? We can't do anything more stringent, or we're at least required to do whatever the feds. I'm not using that. Okay, sorry. Whatever the feds require of us. But if we find out like a best practice from somewhere else that will help us capture more accurate data or more inclusive data, then there wouldn't be anything that would stop Brookhaven from implementing that. And I hate that what it appears like Major Hill, it did, I guess she's just giving a little information on each one, but I don't know. I hate that I don't want her to think that these were issues that they needed to have a response for, as much as it was more so things that we think we could look into more and help her or help the department maybe come up with some additional priorities. So I don't know, like to say, okay, the cultural sensitivity training, but then have the officers are required to complete, like we understand that, but I think the training, for instance, came out of some of the concern about the multiple complaints around being rude. And did we know that whether there were any cultural issues that were driving those perceptions from the community? So I don't know. It's interesting that I guess her approach to these items.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess she may have felt like she just wanted us to have full context. But I agreed that we shouldn't necessarily discount any of these priorities just because of her additional context.
Right. So that's 5. Can you
well,
scroll down a little bit?
Do. Sure.
Okay, I knew that there was another one. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So
May I keep on scrolling?
yeah.
Well, she listed a lot of different community programming that the police are involved in. I think that's really helpful. That was it. Okay. It's just a very long list of different programs.
And I think that would be great as far as like a communications thing, like to even know that they participate in all of that stuff. People need to be aware of that. I don't know how we make them aware of it. I keep touching my screen to scroll and it doesn't work like that.
Which way do you want me to scroll?
Well, I was trying to see, now that I've seen her responses, I was wondering if there was a way that we can collapse them, because that was the next plan, right? Like once we finish brainstorming and getting these items out here, we were talking about saying that we knew we weren't going to tackle 6 items. What did we say that we would get a top 3 or 4? What was our plan?
5.
Oh, it was only 5?
Yeah, so let's see. That was, she responded to 6 total, and we have
8, looks like.
Yeah.
Wonder which one.
Yeah, so these
I don't see anything. I don't think I saw anything on the outside review board.
No.
Or was there anything on that?
No, she did. She was talking about their accreditation.
Okay.
Or whatever the governing body is inside the department and via the state, they don't open it up to individual incidents. They just make sure they're following the protocol.
Okay.
It sounded like as set forth by the state.
Okay.
The two that she didn't talk about were the ones that Mindy highlighted with, do people feel comfortable calling? Were you happy, and do you ever interact with the police outside of the context of calling them?
I do
Which
think that that second one can go in with the police involvement in the general community.
Mhm.
Yeah, they kind of blur a line, right? Or
do.
it goes to both. So yeah.
Yeah, I do think that. So, but Mindy, you said that we decided that we would have 5 and put 2 people on each one. Do we have enough for that?
Yeah, let's talk about that. Because we lost Jeremiah,
Uh-huh.
no longer works in Brookhaven. And let me just pull up our roster of people.
Did Jeremiah get moved, or did he leave the?
I think he got a new job and
Yeah.
he's not in
I think he
Brookhaven.
left the commission in general, right?
Yeah. And so he left the commission.
But then we gained a committee member, right?
Did we?
What's his name?
Saki?
And he was one of our last additions. I mean, he's been here the last 2 meetings. Let me see on our roster.
Okay. I'm just gonna go into
Well, okay, so first things first, while you're looking for that. So Davidson Janice, we're looking at all of these items. I still don't think that 5 is really doable as far as focusing on those and doing a full assessment on them, and especially saying that we were going to try to put 2 people on each item. But if there's anyone that maybe with Major Harrell's explanation, we could say, oh wow, that's like the community involvement one outside of policing. That one just seemed to be very thorough, that there were a lot of instances where Brookhaven is out and about and folks need to know. And, maybe we lob that over to the communications folks and make sure that, that the police department is being highlighted for those types of things. But that may not be one that we need to make one of our assessment focuses, in my opinion, if we're looking to scale back.
Yeah, I agree. And
Yeah, I
then,
do too. Yeah.
What else,
and then
Dave?
you were right. Do you feel or not? Do you ever interact with police? That almost deletes with pushing the other one over to communications, which
Yeah,
narrows
those
you
are
to the 6. So
Yeah. The question about, and I'm going from memory now because I don't see it on screen, but the one about, do you feel comfortable calling the police?
mhm.
That question, I don't even know how. I'd be interested to learn from Mindy or the team on how we assess that. But I think it's important. Like, what are people's perception? And I guess if we're moving into the community contact portion of this, and we can learn, how people feel, or whether they do feel comfortable actually calling the police, or whether different demographics are hesitant to do so. Is that something that's going to be able to be assessed in the tool, in the 4A tool, Mindy?
No, my take on that piece is that if that is something that we feel is a priority, like we really feel like we need to get a good sense of if people feel comfortable calling the police, then we prioritize that in the community engagement piece. And you guys get to shape and develop the community engagement piece, just as a little bit of, insight into what the other groups are doing. So procurement, for example, they've decided that their community really stakeholder engagement, because because different groups are zoning in on, who do we want to hear from? They have decided that they want to hear from folks who have not been awarded contracts in the past, who applied and have not been awarded. And so they got all the names from the city's procurement staff, and they are creating a survey that they'll send out to these folks. So we could do something similar, or we could say, you know what, our stakeholders that we really want to get insight from are, not procurement people, but they are the community, and if that's the direction that we decide to go in, then we have to figure out what that looks like, whether it's focus group or an online survey that we get City of Brookhaven social media to help us push out or something like that. So I'm sorry, I was half listening to your discussion because I was trying to pull up the names of our small but mighty team, and my computer's being so slow because I have a million tabs open. But I got it. And so I should add here Zaki. Yeah, he came over. And then remove Jeremiah. And so we have 9 members, and just to be completely honest, I don't think Kurt has attended a subcommittee meeting.
So that's not like, yeah.
So then maybe 5 is not feasible.
Well, and I think if you add, looks like if we take the community piece and figure out how we're going to get that from stakeholder engagement, we should be down 3 more, right? Let's see, where's the list?
It's 2 more.
Well, one of them we moved. One of them we said was well answered.
Oh, okay. Let me pull it up. I'll pull it up again.
So we have 8 main bullet points.
Right.
If we throw the involvement out, that takes us down to 7. And then, do you interact with police outside of the context? That one goes out with
the
community involvement, right? So you're down to 6.
Yeah.
And that's mental health handling. Do you feel comfortable calling the police? The use of force training, the cultural sensitivity training?
Davis, the one, do you feel comfortable calling the police? That's the third one that I was saying that we could maybe gather a different way.
Okay, I got you. Yeah,
that was the third one. That went with the whole community engagement part.
Okay, so we're
I just throwing this out there, but 3 and 4 on my list are cultural sensitivity training and then use of force training. You could kind of umbrella that and say, what does training look like as it comes to interacting with the community? It's people training, right? How do you train to deal with people of different cultures? And then what happens when it starts to go downhill in your interaction with somebody, right?
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly what we're trying to do here is combine some of these. I think you're right. And I like people training. Yeah. So
did I miss anything in terms of so I crossed out police involvement and general community.
Yeah, and then do you ever interact with the police outside of the context of that one goes under police involvement? But then it should also be crossed out.
Hey guys, Shark's on the call. Apologize.
Hey, what's up?
Thanks for.
All four of us are happy you're here.
Yeah.
I know.
Hey, I'm not judging Mindy, but you have a lot of tabs open. She said it, so I started counting. I'm like, there's no way.
No, I have another window open that has like another dozen.
Oh wow.
applications.
That
I
sure
tell
sounded
people I'm
like
not
Josie
OCD,
Davis.
but I'm pretty sure I am.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's a form falls in there.
You have a great mind, Mindy. Don't let them. Don't.
Yeah, this is the new messy desk, right?
Yes.
Pretty much, yeah.
Hey, look, she's done such a fabulous job juggling. You juggle how you want to juggle. I can't coach that, so you do it.
And so the mental health part, I would be interested. I don't know how we're going to approach that because they have such a new procedure, I guess, for dealing with it. Like they have new things in place that may be fabulous, that may be awful, but we won't have the data on it. And I wonder in our assessment, what is that big unknown? Like obviously on paper, it's going to sound amazing because or else they would not have implemented it or used the model that they're mirroring from Texas. I wonder in our assessment, how are we going to broach that because it is so little data on it.
Yeah, if I may, Monique, Major Harold did a great job answering that, talking about the number of officers who are crisis intervention, training certified.
Mhm.
So I don't know if it answers it, but we could also put that one under the people training, right? So what's your cultural sensitivity training? How do you deal with people who are going through something that is outside of the normal context of daily life, right? Like how does Brookhaven PD handle that? And I mean, she even put in there that they're trying to get all of their officers 100% certified, or they want every officer certified in that, which is a big undertaking. That's a pretty important class that not a lot of people do. So I was kind of, that one, I blinked my eyes at it. That was different for them to do that.
Yeah, I do
So-
agree. Under the people training, Mindy, you got to write people training because that triggers something. Like it's not just training. I like Davis's term, or and I know that it may not be a technical term, but it makes sense.
Davis, can I
and
ask
yeah.
you a question about this crisis intervention team training and stuff like that? So one of the things that Lieutenant Snively mentioned when we were on site was that, one of the scenarios was, hey, you got a mental health call, right? And this guy's kind of having a breakdown. What do you do? And so I asked him, I was like, is this the kind of situation where like the clinician would come out with you? And his response was, well, actually it's a weekend, so they're not even available, right? And so this is realistic because we wouldn't have it. So one of the things I was thinking about is just like, I don't know what goes into CIT training to understand, maybe you do, but two, I was thinking it might be good to understand, like, does the department even have, for example, the appropriate budget to make sure they have someone staffed on this sort of stuff and available as needed?
Yeah. So you're going to, under people training, you can put dollar signs next to it because that's the biggest issue, right? They already spend the majority of the lion's share of the budget for the city goes to the police department. And my guess is it's allocated to the penny. So what's it look like if we throw more hours of training? Not that we can't. And that's something I'm really interested in. Like, how do we get more training in a way that adds value without costing more?
Or without taking away from other important areas. I mean, it has to be reallocated from somewhere.
Exactly. And it's 100%. And so like, how do we do that? And because all of that training is needed. And, Shruk, I don't really know what crisis intervention training looks like now. I know what it used to look like, but I am most certain that in the 5 years I've been out of law enforcement, it has gotten, I don't know if the word is better, but I think as they understand mental health issues a little bit more. You know, before it was do what I say or you go to jail. And then that's where we have a lot of problems. And that was, you know, not at all the way it should have been handled. So, but I would be interested, like, what does it look like? What does, you know, crisis intervention training look like per officer? And again, is that something that they use, you know, it's kind of like use of force training. Is it just once a year? Because I don't know if that's something that you take to heart. If you hear it in April, what's it look like in November when you're facing that?
Yeah.
You know, and that's the tough part of being humans. You know, I'll just say, like, self-defense training, that kind of stuff. We used to talk about it a lot, especially when you would see somebody get in trouble, an officer get in trouble for using their hands incorrectly in a struggle with somebody. And that is, if you don't train for it, you go back to what you know. And if you don't know anything, you're probably scared because you're not as strong as the person who, you know, your motivation is not the same. And so then that's where you see officers go right to a handgun. And it's terrifying to think that that's the first thought, you know, oop, I can't control. So now I'm going to go to, you know, to red line. That's crazy. So, but if we don't train at all, except once a year, a 4-hour class or 8-hour class you sit in, and really it's just a time to get together with your buddies and eat lunch, you know, what good did it do? So
that's a really good point. And I actually, maybe what we should do is include, you know, assessment of the funding for this stuff as part of the people training as well. Like, I mean, I know you're kind of being facetious putting dollar signs there, but I mean, I think could be part of the assessment of something to take a look at, right?
yeah.
So let me add, good evening, by the way, everyone. Let me add something. When you're thinking about training, I think that's a great thing. If there are data that support the need for more training based upon the assessment of the data, I want you all to think comprehensively and not let the budget or the numbers restrict your thoughts. Follow the data and not let numbers, because if the recommendation comes back and the city needs to do something to add funding and it's justified and there's rationale and there's data, I think that's just a recommendation that goes to the city, and the policymakers get to decide how do they fund that. So I wouldn't let funding restrict your thoughts and your discussion and your drive to some conclusions.
Yeah.
So as we were looking at the number of folks that we have left in the committee, and so I think, Shrek, we talked about narrowing this down to 5. I said I think we needed to get a little, maybe a little less than that. Thought maybe 4 would be better. And so what we were trying to do were either collapse some of these together, or you'll see that Major Harold did give us some feedback on a few of the items that may not necessarily put it to bed, but may help us have a greater appreciation for one, like for instance, the community involvement outside of policing. She had such a long list of items there that, to me, as a Brookhaven resident, I think that's now been no longer a point for assessment, just a point for communication. Like people need to know that these are all the things that they're involved in. And making sure that that's put out there, but I don't think that should go to one of the items that we're assessing. So that's how we're trying to collapse this list down in a way that will allow us to sign our votes.
I think that's a great idea, Monique. That makes total sense to me.
Okay.
I wonder,
So
are these
go ahead.
4 bullet points, are these it?
I think so. I mean, I think we had 8 and we somehow made them 4. Yeah.
Magic.
That's awesome. Well,
I think so.
good thing I showed up to the meeting and added a bunch of value then.
No, you did. Well, you added the value on the front end by putting the list together and then giving Major Harold the opportunity to provide additional information on each of them. If not for that, then we would be spinning our wheels still looking at all 8 of them. So I think it did help. You do
Thanks,
the
Cindy.
work now, or you do the work before. I got you. So this is good. So I think what we'll do is we're going to assign committee members to each of these. Does anyone have a particular thing that you would like to look at? I know the training one is going to be a heavy lift. So if we have a third person, like if our numbers work out to where we could put 3 people in one, I would like for it to be the people training one.
I'd like to do the mental health angle or under people
Okay.
training, I guess.
Yeah. Okay.
Davis, do you have a preference?
Well, of course, I geek on training, right? That's as a coach, this is what I do. But I'm really interested in the complaint data, the outside review, and simply because as a former police officer, I would have said absolutely not, 0 tolerance for that. But now that I'm on the outside looking in, I'm interested, like what do my peers on the subcommittee think about that? And so I would kind of like to be the third person for training to just, you know what I mean? Somebody else can do the heavier lifting, but I'll be there to do the back squat, so to speak.
Okay. Thank you so much. I want to look at the ethnicity reporting Hispanic data in terms of ethnicity and race. I think that's really important for the makeup of our community and whether we needed to be innovative in doing that beyond what's required of us of the federal government.
I'm interested in the complaint data and outside, just that concept of the outside review myself. I think I could guess what Kathy and Connie would be interested in. I would guess that Connie would be interested in the ethnicity, race data and reporting, and that Kathy would be interested in the do you feel comfortable calling the police angle?
So that one of the things we talked about, it may have been before you came on, with that particular one, I guess we can leave it. But my question was, how are we going to handle that from an assessment portion? And then Mindy and all of us, we got into a conversation about whether that was something that's better for the community engagement portion and just trying to figure out who our target is and how people become comfortable calling and leaning on the police or engaging with the police. And so I don't think we should take it out, especially now that we're down to 4. I'd be interested to figure out how we go about assessing that, since we don't have, I mean, there's no more data they can give us because they don't keep the demographics of the people who have called. So I don't know, I don't know what else, how else to go about that.
I feel like part of this, I'll just say, by looking at this list, I get the sense that we may be creating more work for ourselves when it comes to who we engage, because when it comes to training, I do feel that you're going to want to have a conversation with officers, right? And that is a completely different audience and conversation than, are you comfortable talking to the police? Because in that conversation, you're wanting to talk to a community. And I think those are both worth our time, but I just want to, point that out. In terms of, do people feel comfortable calling the police? I think a way that we might break that down and identify is just to begin with, like, visioning. If you could talk to anyone, if you could ask this question to anyone, who would you ask? Would it be people outside of Brookhaven, because we know that they have the most interactions, or do we care about, do we want to ask people who live in Brookhaven, you know, that kind of, and then try to narrow from there.
I think that's part of I think that's a really good point, Mindy. One thing I think about when I think about this one is very early on when we were looking at the policing data from last year, one of the things that struck out to me is that I believe it was the Beaufort Highway Beat had the most calls, right, or incidents with the police, but it also had a really high rate of residents making the calls, right? So there's some leading indicators of like, hey, maybe people are comfortable with this, but I'm willing to bet that if we had two people who were really into the data and taking a look at it and kind of evaluating it, we could get some more of the backup data that Lieutenant Snively has to feed into it, and then use that to inform how we engage with that community, right? Because at the high level with the numbers rolled up, it's like, yeah, a lot of people on the Beaufort Highway corridor are calling the police themselves, right? And it's more than 50% of the reports come from citizen initiated rather than police initiated, which is could be good. Let's dig into it and make sure it is good. That's kind of the angle I was thinking we could take on this one too. But yeah, it's I agree with your point of there's clearly different communities at play here, right? There's like the broader community and then there's the policing community, and we're intersecting them in some of these.
So who else do we have that needs an area? Can you flip back over, Mindy? Let's see.
So there's Lauren, Kirk, and Zaki.
What else what are we missing? We got the ethnicity and the data reporting. That's that. We got two people there. The complaint data, we have two people in that. We need another person on training, people training. And we need another person on comfort with calling the police. All of them? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think we wanted 3 people on people training, right?
Yeah,
you
I mean,
already
we
covered
could, yeah, we have 2 people and an assistant.
Yeah, so I would just what I do when we send out assignments is I just randomly assign.
So I think I'm gonna I have a feeling that Zaki would be a good analyzer of people training just based on some of the stuff that he's shared out on Basecamp.
Yeah.
Um,
Why is Kirk named in italics? Sorry, was that?
I did that because I'm not sure if he plans on joining any. We can have a separate co-chair conversation about this, but I think it may be worth reaching out to him individually to see.
Okay. Yep. No problem, Davis.
And
No.
then, so
Thank you, Davis.
2 people on people training, and what was Comfort was calling the police.
Is that what you guessed for Lauren? Sure, you said.
You know, I've only interacted with Lauren, I think 1 or 2 times, but he was at the on-site. Maybe this time doesn't work for him too well. I think he was in one of the very early meetings.
Okay.
But this is what I think for everyone but Kirk, let's just put it on Basecamp and call it suggested assignments. And maybe I'll just reach out to Kirk on the side and see what's going on there.
Got all of them 1, 2. Okay. So it's 4 items, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right. And then, yeah, okay. Look how productive we were.
Yeah.
I guess that's what happens when Shark shows up late.
Well,
and Monique is on vacation.
She's like, get done.
I tend to be very efficient when I'm on vacation. Okay, so all right, well, this is good. So what our next step is, we of course we have our meeting tomorrow, right? But so our next step is to kind of start with this assessment tool?
Yeah,
With-
and what I will do is I'll make another post to Basecamp with the tool, the assignments, and the template.
Yeah.
And I may also email it out, especially for folks that I'm not sure are using Basecamp. Because yeah, this is important, so I want to make sure that they see it. But I'll BCC so we don't
And
get
will-
any crazy
we-
chains
maybe-
going.
Mindy, will you or maybe me, you and Shura, we could get together and just kind of figure out if can we set up some like milestones for the team as it relates to doing the assessment with this, so that they're not like, I guess, so we know what's expected of us when with this particular phase. Like, is this something that we should have done before our next meeting? Is this something we should have done over the next 2 months? Like, what is the timeline for this phase and what we're doing here?
Yeah. Well, okay. So let me propose something. So we were conversing about this next meeting being before 4th of July weekend and potentially canceling it, which I think may work out. So this is what I'm thinking is ideally everyone would be able to find time to do the 4P assessment on their own time over the next 2 weeks, and then send their information, their responses to me so that I can synthesize it in preparation for our following meeting 2 weeks after that to present it back out. And in a way that allows us to determine how we want to approach the research. And by research, it's, looking into some of the best practices around these given issues and how we want to approach stakeholder / community engagement. So does that?
Yeah, I think that's it. I think that works.
Yeah, that will work.
One of the things that I would suggest is like the people who are assigned just kind of get together individually and discuss too. So Monique, are you back next week?
Nope.
Nope.
I'm gone for 2 weeks, but I have built-in time to take care of work and some other commitments. So
Okay.
I'll be back on the 29th.
Got it.
Yeah.
So why don't we find 30 minutes for Yumi and Mindy to get together, and we can just flesh out a timeline for the next 4 weeks or so from now to the next meeting and provide some best practices. Because I think starting with send everything by June 30th to Mindy is a good start, but also it's like, do we want it? Like, I would like to talk to Davis about the 4P assessment too, right? And everyone's got busy lives. So it's like, do we want to bake in time for people to work together and all that sort of
Yeah.
stuff?
Yeah, let's work on a timeline. Let's get together, I guess today, tomorrow, or before the end of the week. Today's what, Wednesday? Say Wednesday.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we can get together, do a timeline, and maybe some kind of outline, or I don't know. I think maybe I need to look at the 4P assessment again. I know that that's what we did during our last meeting, but just understanding what is expected of us at this stage would be great.
Okay. So I'll hold off on sending anything until we have a chance to chat.
Okay.
Well, yeah. I mean, we can have our assignments, and well, I don't know if it hurts, Mindy, to send the assignments, and what else were you gonna send?
Next steps.
The next steps. Okay. I don't want to take folks' time trying to figure out.
Yeah. So let's send the assignments out, and
Okay.
then we can just say that we'll follow up with next steps later this week. If
Mhm.
you guys, and tomorrow Kaida is busy with work, and then we have the 7 p.m. meeting. So tomorrow might be tight, but maybe we can find some time Friday afternoon, since I think that would be best for you, Monique, since you're on West Coast time right now. So I'll just send some
Mhm.
availability out in our ping, and we can figure it out from there.
Okay, that works. That works for me. All right. Well, everyone, is there anything else? No. When is our meeting, our in-person meeting?
Tomorrow.
Oh. Okay, well, obviously I knew I wasn't gonna be there in person, but I thought that that was an executive committee meeting tomorrow. That's a full commission meeting.
Mhm.
Okay, all right. Well, I don't think I'm gonna be able to attend, but I think I just watched the recording. It'll probably be better than, me just attending remotely live at that time. Okay. Well, everyone, I really appreciate your time. Thank you for allowing me to share this meeting from the beach and now in my car. And I will be in touch. Janice, I guess Janice Davis, are y'all having any trouble with Basecamp? Are y'all using it just fine?
I mean, I don't know if I use it, but I look at it. Yeah, it's good.
I look
I
at it.
actually
I
like it.
tried to use it. I don't know if it's worked really, but
Yeah,
Okay.
I like it so much that I've actually recommended it for a nonprofit that I'm starting. So
Yay!
it's just a fantastic
What kind of
way to keep things. So
I absolutely I love all collaborative platforms. The thought of receiving a bunch of emails just drives me bananas. But I would love to hear more about your nonprofit at another time. Thank you so much. I'll reach out, Davis. I'm just always interested. And all right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for attending. Mindy, Sharuk, is there anything else that I should be doing today? Are we good?
I think we're good.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Funny, for joining us tonight. I saw you slide in, and
And thank each of you for all your hard work. I'm excited to hear the discussion, and you guys are really tackling a great issue. So thank each of you for your time.
absolutely, and good luck on your endeavors. See, you're going to be pretty busy yourself over the next couple of months. I see.
Just a little bit, yes.
Just a little bit. All right. All right, everyone.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. I will return to you 9 minutes, and I appreciate y'all. Have a great day.
thank you.
Bye.
Good
Bye.
evening.
Bye, everyone.